Are you taking the solicitor's qualifying examination? If so, this video is a practice test to help you prepare for the SQE 1 exam. The topic tested in this video is the key UK courts and tribunals, their hierarchy and jurisdictions. I will explain what you need to know for this subject, which I've set out in this easy to learn diagram. We will zoom into the different UK courts and tribunals and explain their different jurisdictions and work. To download this diagram in high resolution, just sign up on the link below. I prepared it because there's no diagram this comprehensive, setting out exactly what you need to know for the SQE 1 on the courts and tribunal structure. By signing up, you will also get access to the first part of our SQE preparation course for free. My goal is to help you prepare for and pass the SQE examination first time. At the end of this video, we'll go through this practice test question together for this topic. For the solicitor's qualifying examination, you need to understand the different areas of the UK courts hierarchy set out in this diagram. In this part of the course, we're focusing on the magistrates' courts, the tribunals, the Crown Court, the county court and the family courts. So let's start with the magistrates' court. In England and Wales, a magistrates' court is a lower court which holds trials for summary offences and preliminary hearings for more serious ones. Some civil matters are also decided there, including some family proceedings and youth courts, and the licensing, betting, gaming and alcohol matters. The cases are normally heard by either a panel of 3 magistrates or by a district judge without a jury. Criminal decisions of the magistrates' courts may be appealed to the Crown Court. Civil decisions may be appealed to the county courts. In the criminal law and dispute resolution sections of our SQE preparation course, we will go into more detail about their work. The Crown Court. The Crown Court covers indictable criminal offences that have been transferred from the magistrates' courts and some appeals. Cases are heard by a judge and a jury. Judgments of the Crown Court may be appealed to the Criminal Division of the Court of Appeal. Again, we will deal with this in depth in the criminal law section of our SQE preparation course. The county courts. The county courts deal with claims for repayment of debts, breach of contract involving goods or property, personal injury, housing issues including recovery of mortgage and rent arrears and repossession, and enforcement of previous county court judgments. Cases in the county courts are heard by a judge without a jury. Decisions of the county courts may be appealed to the appropriate division of the High Court. The family law courts. Family matters are dealt with by district judges in county courts and in family proceedings courts, which are specialist magistrates courts, and in some matters in the family division of the High Court. Magistrates undergo specialist training before they sit in family proceedings courts, where procedures are very different from the criminal courts. So the family law courts appear in a separate category in this diagram, but remember that they cross several different courts: the county courts, the magistrates courts and the High Court. The various types of cases the family court handles include parental disputes about the upbringing of children, local authority intervention to protect children, decrees relating to divorce, financial support for children after divorce or relationship breakdown, some aspects of domestic violence, adoption, cases concerning children such as care orders which give parental responsibility for the child concerned to the local authority applying for the order. The tribunals. Most of the tribunals are in 2 tiers, a first-tier tribunal and an upper tribunal, split into chambers. Each chamber comprises similar jurisdictions or brings together similar types of experts to hear appeals. The first-tier tribunal. This is divided into 7 chambers with specialist jurisdictions. The War, Pensions and Armed Forces Compensation Chamber. It is responsible for handling appeals by current and former servicemen or women in England and Wales against decisions by Veterans UK in relation to pensions, compensation and other amounts. The Social Entitlement Chamber. It is responsible for handling appeals against decisions relating to job seekers' allowance and other benefits. It also has a specialist tribunal, the First Tier Tribunal, Criminal Injuries Compensation. It is responsible for handling appeals by victims of violent crime where they disagree with a decision by the Criminal Injuries Compensation Authority about compensation. The Health, Education and Social Care Chamber. This encompasses a broad range of matters in relation to those fields and has specialist tribunals within it. The First Tier Tribunal Care Standards is responsible for handling appeals against decisions by the Secretary of State for Education, the Secretary of State for Health, Care, the Care Quality Commission, Ofsted, or the Care Council of Wales. The First Tier Specialist Education Needs and Disability Tribunal. Now, this is responsible for handling appeals against local authority decisions regarding special educational needs, including a refusal to assess a child's educational, health and care needs, and similar decisions. It also handles appeals against discrimination by schools or local authorities due to a child's disability. The General Regulatory Chamber. This is responsible for handling appeals against decisions made by government regulatory bodies in cases including charities, community rights to bid, consultant lobbyists, conveyancing, copyright licensing, driving instructors, electronic communications and postal services, the environment, estate agents, exam boards, food, gambling information rights, letting and management agencies, microchipping dogs, pensions regulations, the welfare of animals. So quite a broad range of issues. The Tax Chamber. This is responsible for handling appeals against some decisions made by HMRC relating to income tax, PAYE tax, corporation tax, capital gains tax, national insurance contributions, statutory sick pay, inheritance tax, VAT, excise duty, customs duty. It also handles some appeals relating to goods seized by either HMRC or the Border Force, and against some decisions made by the National Crime Agency. The Immigration and Asylum Chamber. It is responsible for handling appeals against some decisions made by the Home Office relating to permission to stay in the UK, deportation from the UK, entry clearance to the UK. It also handles applications for immigration bail from people being held by the Home Office on immigration matters. The Property Chamber. The Property Chamber handles applications, appeals and references relating to disputes over property and land. Residential property disputes that it handles includes rent increases for fair or market rates, leasehold disputes, leasehold enfranchisement, disputes about park homes, improvement notices and prohibition orders where your notice is under the Housing Act 2004, disputes about licenses for houses in multiple occupation, the right to buy your council home being refused because it's deemed suitable for elderly people. So quite a wide range of matters. Land registration matters that it handles includes disputes over a change to the land register, applications to correct or cancel certain documents relating to registering land, agricultural and land and draining matters that the Property Chamber handles includes disputes between agricultural tenants and landlords in relation to certain farming tenancies, applications in respect of certain drainage disputes between neighbours. It also handles applications from valuation officers to enter premises to carry out certain valuations. The Upper Tribunal. The Upper Tribunal primarily, but not exclusively, reviews and decides appeals arising from the first tier tribunal. It has 4 chambers. You can see that the main pathways of appeal are shown in the connections on this diagram. The Upper Tribunal Immigration and Asylum Chamber. So this is responsible for handling appeals against decisions made by the first tier tribunal, Immigration and Asylum, relating to visa applications, asylum applications, and the right to enter or stay in the UK. It also handles applications for judicial review of certain decisions made by the Home Office, normally relating to immigration, asylum, and human rights claims. The Upper Tribunal Lands Chamber is responsible for handling appeals against decisions made by the first tier tribunal Property Chamber. It also is responsible for handling applications for cases about a decision about rates, for example, made by the Valuation Tribunal in England or Wales, compensation for compulsory purchase of land, discharge or modification of land affected by a restrictive covenant, compensation for the effect on land affected by public works, a tree preservation order, compensation for damage to land damaged by subsistence from mining, the valuation of land or buildings for capital gains tax or inheritance tax purposes, a right to light dispute, compensation for blighted land, and the Electronic Communication Code, disputes involving masts and other telecommunications equipment on land. So again, quite a diverse range of issues that it handles. The Upper Tribunal Tax and Chancery Chamber. It is responsible for handling appeals for certain decisions made by the first tier tribunal tax chamber for cases about tax, the General Regulatory Chamber for cases about charities. So it handles these appeals, and it also handles appeals against certain decisions made by the Financial Conduct Authority, the Prudential Regulation Authority, the Secretary of State for International Trade or the Trade Remedies Authorities, the Pensions Regulator, the Bank of England, HM Treasury, and Ofgem. The Upper Tribunal Administrative Appeals Chamber. It is responsible for dealing with appeals against decisions made by certain lower tribunals and organisations, including Social Security and child support, war pensions and armed forces compensation, mental health, special educational needs or disabilities, disputes heard by the General Regulatory Chamber, decisions made by the Disclosure and Barring Service. The Upper Tribunal Administrative Appeals Chamber also handles applications for judicial review of decisions made by the first tier tribunal criminal injuries compensation and other first tier tribunals where there is no other right of appeal. Other tribunals. Separate from this system is the Employment Tribunal. It is responsible for hearing claims by people who think someone, such as an employer or potential employer, has treated them unlawfully. Examples of unlawful treatment claims that it may hear include unfair dismissal, discrimination, and unfair deductions from pay. The Employment Appeals Tribunal. It is responsible for handling appeals against decisions made by the Employment Tribunal where an error of law may have been made in the case. The Competition Appeal Tribunal. This is a specialist judicial body with cross-disciplinary expertise in law, Economics, Business and Accountancy, which hears and decides cases involving competition or economic regulatory issues. The Valuation Tribunal for England. The Valuation Tribunal for England is a judicial statutory body. It deals with appeals about council tax and non-domestic business rates. It is supported in its work by the Valuation Tribunal Service. A decision about rates made by the Valuation Tribunal in England or Wales is appealed to the Upper Tribunal Lands Chamber. Here is a sample question for the SQE for this topic. Your client wishes to appeal a decision to refuse a VAT refund. Which chamber of the first-tier tribunal is likely to be the most appropriate forum for the appeal? The Social Entitlement Chamber, the Health, Education and Social Care Chamber, the Regulatory Chamber, the Tax Chamber, the Property Chamber. The correct answer is D, the Tax Chamber. I've produced a separate video and section of this course on the High Court, Court of Appeal and Supreme Court. As I say, to download this diagram in high resolution, just sign up on the link below. By signing up, you'll also get access to the first part of our full SQE preparation course for free.